Greetings and welcome back to Conversations with Ed. Boy, this time went by so fast. Can you believe the 6 weeks is almost up? Next week will be the last week. We've had a great time, had some fun. We're going to do something real different tonight. I'm going to get involved here with some folks that you don't get a chance to see. You just see their work. And I think that might be kind of interesting. Naturally, before we get started, I have to give my greetings to the vets, to the VA hospital, to Peggy and Sarah and Dorothy and Nurse Diane and Nurse Linda and Dr. Brazizi and Holly and all of the people out there that take such good care of me and who are there to take care of you also. There's been a lot of conversation about the VA lately, and I hope that you're not getting caught up in the hype. I hope that you realize that a lot of this is politics, and that's what you're hearing a lot of this about. I'm not taking away from the problems. There are problems. But when you have a organization as big as the Veterans Administration is, and with such an uprising in the last 10 years with all of the brothers, soldiers coming back injured, the ones that usually wouldn't have made it off of the battlefield, there's going to be some changes. Be aware, they're on top of it. The powers that be, the real powers that be, are on top of this thing, and it's going to get straightened out. Meanwhile, don't let that hold you up. Go do what we talked about, get that paperwork done, take care of your families, okay? Now, with that said, what are we going to do tonight? I have one more week on. Next week will be the last week. I do have superintendent, or the head of the PTA, coming in from Henrico County. He's going to talk about some of the activities that you can look forward to for the students coming in next year in September. You know, that's a big issue with us here, making sure that the young folks are taken care of. And on the way down here, on the way to the show tonight, my wife and I had a little conversation about relationships, young people in relationships, and how there needs to be some maybe even training would be the right word, interpersonnel relationships, how to talk back and forth to people, because it seems like communication has become, or is fastly becoming, a lost skill. Now we're going to put the phone numbers up. Like I said, we're doing something a little different tonight, so if you hear something, or if you don't hear something that you want to know about, please don't hesitate to call. But I think you're going to like the direction that we take tonight, because it'll be something that hasn't been done, not on any of my shows, but I'm going to call the guys up. I don't know how the cameras and things are going to work, because I'm getting the producers, the guys behind the scene, to come up here and tell us about them, about what they do and what they like to see done with this great opportunity that I don't think enough people take advantage of now. This cable system right here in Richmond, me coming out of New York, BCAT, Brooklyn Cable, and whatnot, and seeing the differences in the two operations. This can be a lot more than it is, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But by the same token, I think the guys need to get some attaboys. So they're going to come on up. I'm going to introduce you to the fellas, and if you ever decide that you want to come on in here and do your own thing, these will probably be some of the gentlemen that you'd be working with. And if you're that fortunate, I want you to know you have an excellent crew to work with. So you guys come on and sit down. It's going to be a little different from you being behind the camera. We're going to get you in front of the camera and tickle your brains a little bit and find out what's going on. And Andwele. Am I pronouncing it right?
That's right,
Okay,
Andwele.
Andwele. Okay, so this is Andwele right here. Gardner. And this is my brother over here, Akil Muhammad. And these are the guys that make all of this work. And the reason that I wanted them to come up in front of the camera, if you were watching last week, they actually performed a miracle with all of the youngsters that were here doing the karate thing, with cameras being out, with them having to kind of makeshift and make it work. And I think it worked pretty good. At least the phone calls and the responses we got from that show were all very positive. Nobody knew there was anything wrong except us.
Except us,
which
yeah,
I think is the way it should be, right? Now, how did you guys, Akil, how did you guys wind up in this business? Because it is a business, you know. But
well, I was trained. I got sent to Hawaii from the Army.
See that?
Back in '69.
Okay.
And somebody asked me to come down to the station. They had classes down there. So I went through all the classes at public access. That was back in, I guess that was back in the 80s. And that's how I got started. I've been volunteering ever since. So when I retired after 35 years, came back here, I sought out public access. So here I am.
Well, I'm glad to have you, okay?
11 years here.
And you saying that you started off in the military, you know.
Yeah.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. I've been telling these youngsters, telling my own grandkids, you know, now. And I'll tell it to you fellas out there. If any of you are listening or looking, great career opportunity. The military is different from when you went in, entirely different from when I went in. But what opportunity that's available for young people now who want to use their heads. Okay, people say, no, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to fight. It's not about fighting now. It's about computers. That's what it's about. Akil, how'd you get into this?
How you doing?
I'm good. All right.
Well, it was a strange road. I've been putting Minister Farrakhan on for the last 4 or 5 years. And my time slot was 12 a.m. So I came down one day and I said, one of the brothers said they needed some volunteers. So I thought if I become a volunteer, I would be in a better position to get a better time slot for the minister.
Takes 2 hands to clap. That's
So
right,
now he
yeah.
comes on at 8:30,
It
prime
worked.
time.
It worked.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And I've seen it.
And I've learned a lot. This brother here, Andwele, worked for public access for over 30 years in Hawaii. So I learned from the best.
Yeah.
Well, I think he gives me a little too much credit.
No, he doesn't. I've been in the business for a long time, you know, with Charlene and I and Tropical Beat and different things that I did in New York, and I was on cable in New York also. But you make magic happen, and you know, folks sitting back looking at the shows on TV have no concept of how much work and how much effort you volunteers put in to make it happen. Now that last week, you know, I've said it 4 or 5 times, the way that you guys actually made that whole thing work and made everybody happy because the kids loved it, the other people to call up, and technically you did it. That's why I said let's talk tonight. Now let me ask you something, okay, without getting anybody in a jam, okay? If this were your setup, if you guys were the owners of this, what would you do different?
Well, it would depend on our budget, and it kind of hinges on the whole operation here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know what the budget is here,
Mm-hmm.
and the inner workings of, you see, this is for the public, and we're paying for it, actually. If you want to look at your bill, if you got Comcast, I think it says rights of way fee. If it doesn't, it says rights of way tax. So they're obligated, mandated to pay a fee in order to broadcast.
Yeah.
And so the city has an ordinance franchise agreement with Comcast to operate the station.
Now.
And Verizon also. That franchise agreement came about in 2007, the latest one, I think.
Uh-huh.
And so they're obligated to have a station here. So public is actually part of an acronym, which is PEG, stands for Public, Educational, and Government.
Aha.
Right, so a cursory glance at the educational and government channels will show you the disparity and equality between the public component of PEG and the E and the G. You see?
Okay.
So where is the money? I mean, that's the big question. Where is the money? What's the budget? What's the operating budget for this station? Now, most public access stations are operated by a nonprofit.
Yes.
This is actually operated by the cable provider itself, which is unusual.
Watch your mic. Uh-huh.
Which is unusual.
Well, I didn't know that. Okay, and I'm sure the public didn't know that either. Back to that question, what would you do different? And hey, you had a budget, you had everything, the best case scenario, and it was for the same purpose, public access.
Well, there's so much. we'd have to write. I would have to write a plan out. We'd have to have training. Everybody, first of all, before you even set foot in the station, you would set foot in the station to get orientation. That goes for producers and technicians or whoever wants to be a part of this station.
Mm-hmm.
You get an orientation to show you how it works, how everything works.
Mm-hmm.
Then there'll be training. Even the producers will get trained.
Right. Okay.
And the producers and then the technicians will go through various phases of training, starting maybe with the camera, And then, to the control room where you learn how to switch and audio.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
And, and then you go to editing, So it would be training classes set up for everybody.
Now, what about the component of the kids? Training, like internships and that kind of thing. Would you include that in your package?
Oh, of course, yeah. Kids are included. Where I came from, kids were, in fact, they would have their own anyway because that's the educational part. I mean, if depending on how it's set up. But of course, they will come in for some sort of internship. I've had kids in Hawaii on my show. I've had them in before for storytelling or even operating the equipment.
Well, our son,
and they got a big thrill out of it. These are 7th, 8th graders or sometimes even younger.
Our son did that here 20-something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right here in the same studio. He did. He operated the cameras and the whole bit. Now he's way up in the chain at Al Jazeera.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he got to start.
He got to start
see,
doing this and then working with Jim Porter, who I don't know if you know who Jim Porter is here. Jim is our cameraman for Charlene's been with Charlene over 20 years, but he's the head video guy for Genworth Financial.
Genworth.
But he used to do all of the WWF. So he traveled all of the backroom stuff you used to see with the WWF. That was Porter Productions doing that. He's a great cameraman. In fact, Jim and I have become more like brothers, really, because we've traveled all over the world together. Now, you do a lot of side things. You are a very busy man. Now, I know you do the radio show.
I have really my son has a 24/7 internet radio station called It's Fresh Radio. So you go to www.itsfreshradio.com.
ITS?
ITS, It's Fresh Radio. And so I asked him one day, I said, give me some time on your radio station. I play like the classic 70s. I bring you a different crowd. And he did. So I'm on every Friday night at 6 o'clock.
From 6 to
6 to 7.
6 to 7
So
p.m.
check it out. Itsfreshradio.com.
Itsfreshradio.com every
Right.
Friday 6 to 7.
Right.
Outstanding.
Right.
Okay.
I paint pictures.
Yeah, you do some good artwork.
I
too.
sold
You're
a couple.
a Renaissance
Yeah, I've
man.
seen his paintings
He
too.
does
He's
some
a
good
big
work too.
Yeah.
I play the bass, but just a hobby. It's a hobby. You know?
Okay.
And because of this show, I'm able to videotape weddings, family reunions.
You've done a couple of fashion shows too.
Fashion shows, right? For one brother named Wendell Moss, he has some nice fashion shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done maybe 3 funerals.
Funerals?
Yes.
I've done funerals too.
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's strange.
Yeah. I did one funeral in Hawaii. It's a Filipino funeral. My wife and we used to work together. I had a business, and we worked together. And somebody asked us to videotape the funeral. Now, the Filipinos, I don't know if that's throughout their culture or not, but they have to put on a show in order to get whatever insurance monies that they have or land maybe back in the Philippines. So they videotape it so they can send it back to the Philippines, And I mean they go wailing and wailing and wailing, regardless of if it's fake or not. I mean maybe for an hour or so they're over the casket. Now like I said, I don't know if that's throughout the culture or not.
It's interesting.
But they send that tape back, and depending on what kind of mourning they do, if you call it mourning,
that is
then
interesting.
that determines what they get as far as property and whatever else.
Rights, different rights
Different
around the
rights.
world. We've seen them, in Africa you see the instead of having tombstones, they might have an airplane, that's carved out of metal, or I mean, it's just the imagination, you know, that people have. But now, who would know that you guys would have experienced this kind of stuff? So that's what I mean. You know, you talk to people. We travel. You know, we travel quite a bit. And my dad used to always tell me, you know, make sure that you meet the guy that's in charge of maintenance. Make sure when you stay at the hotel, you make sure you know that you meet the little guy, as they're saying. You know, people say I don't think they're the little guys, but those are the people that take care of you. Now here you guys in here, you come in, and I know some of these folks give you a pretty rough time. Try to anyhow, okay? But you still pull it off, right? And you're not doing the shows. I mean, you're filming the shows, so it's not up to you how good or bad they are. It's just technically how good or bad they are. But I know there's probably a lot of times when you're sitting here pulling your hair out. Oh God, I wish there was something I could do to make.
Yeah, I've learned a lot working at this station.
What would you like to see happen if this were if you had the choice in running this operation the way that you wanted to, still with the same concept of cable?
Well, like Brother Andwele said, you know, the money, you know, if we had the money, you know, we need better equipment here, you know. We need better equipment to switch, you know, from one scene to another. You know, we have to go through a 3-step process just to switch, just to put the credits up, you know. Now, this is what I want to say. The program manager we had before Martin, I ain't like him. I didn't, you know. Martin, at least he tries. I think he's trying to make the station better. And it has improved.
It has.
It has
definitely
improved,
has.
you know, but it could be a whole lot better. You know, this background right here, you know, we need a new background. You know, that's one of the first things I would do, to get a backdrop, right?
Okay.
And also have advertising for the community to get more involved with the station, because it's our station. You know, the community, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I have a feeling they may close this station. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I think it's founded in a lot of facts. You know, because they're doing it all across the nation.
Closing
they're shutting
public
down
access.
public access. Yes, sir. They sure are.
That's
this-
kind of dangerous. Isn't it?
Go ahead,
But
Brother Akil.
this station here is unique. I let Brother Andwele explain it, because it don't operate like other public access stations around the country. Explain to him how this one.
Yeah, I just did briefly.
He did. You
That most public access centers are nonprofit,
right.
and they have a budget. They have their own operating budget. You know, and here you just have Comcast, and we haven't seen. I don't know what kind of agreement the city has with Comcast, but from what I understand, if Comcast wants to pull out, they could do so at any time. That doesn't mean that public access would stop, but it might take a different form. So that means you wouldn't have live shows, you wouldn't have volunteers, you would probably bring in a DVD and put it in the DVD changer, and that's it, you know. And that's very likely to happen here. And we need the producers to, you know, maybe not yet, but step up to the plate. And whenever you find something wrong that you don't like, don't be afraid to complain. This is your station. You're paying for it. Don't be afraid to make that phone call and say, hey, my picture looks shoddy. Why? You know?
Who would
What's
you call?
happening? Why does it sound? Well, you have to call, first of all, you'd have to call the station manager. You know, you go up the chain. And then as like anything else, if nothing happens there, then we'd have to escalate to whoever has oversight, and that's been a problem for us too. Who has oversight? It has to be the city somewhere that has oversight over the operation of the station.
I'm just wondering now. Maybe we're opening up a door that needs to be opened
Oh, it definitely needs to be.
and needs to be dialogued on, because this is an asset. Okay.
Definitely.
And if the powers that be block public access to TV, then where does the everyday guy go
Right,
to have a stage?
right.
Okay. There's going to be a lot of protesting coming up in the next couple of months. There's going to be a lot of controversy coming just because of what's happening worldwide. And, you know, again, being small-minded, we think of that, what's happening, it's happening over there. It's not affecting us. But watch the gas prices, okay? And watch all of the other income circumstances. It's going to take a plunge because this thing is going to have a domino effect. And I'm talking about Israel and Hezbollah. I'm talking about all of the different areas in the Middle East, in Africa, that impact on us directly and indirectly. And, you know, as I said I think it was last week, the difference that we're now, just like with Vietnam, when the Vietnam War, the public was involved. The Korean War, the Second World War, the public was involved. You had to ration this, you had to save that. You could only get gas on odd numbered days or even numbered days or something. The public was involved. The way the circumstance is now, the only time that we're involved is if we turn on CNN. And then you don't know if you're getting the right story.
Hey, you said it right. It was so that's why it's alternative media, which this is alternative media, whether it's in form of TV or print, you know, radio. It's a service that we need. We need to support it because I mean, if you look at mainstream, I like to say lamestream media, you know. People tend to think that's authority. You know, when you watch CNN or the news, you know, whatever they say, people just take it.
Yeah.
You know, without any critical analysis whatsoever.
At all.
So here you have a venue where you could come on and dispute or inform where you've been misinformed, you know, about any given subject.
It's a forum, exactly.
It's a forum, right, exactly. So maybe that's why, I mean, not maybe, I mean, they're shutting stations down all across the nation.
Right.
You know, so who wants to, you know,
Well,
the powers that be
Do you
don't want
think
to be
that's
exposed.
economics or politics?
Oh, I think it's
Combination.
a combination. I
think
don't think economics has
I think it's more politics.
probably more politics in it, involved in it, you know.
But I'd like to reiterate for the people to get involved. It's your station, you know, it's free. If you want to have your own show, you know, I give you the number to call, 915-5201, and you put in a request to have your own show. You can have 6 weeks intervals where you have, you know, 1 day a week. You decide between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. It'll be 1 hour, you know. So if you like to have your own show, produce what you want to produce, what you want to see on TV. You know, if you're tired of looking at, you know, guys walking around with their pants hanging off their butts,
Maury
you know,
Povich
or the
and
feminization of the black male, you know, or the destruction of the world, you know.
Werewolves and
You
zombies.
can come on here and, you know, present your own view.
Yeah, and you wonder how these kids are acting up. I mean, all these horrific crimes that we're having now. Where did all this come from? And, you know, I said that the zombies as a joke, but, you know, these kids are sitting down looking at this stuff and they're believing it.
Yeah.
And they're going out and acting on
They're
it.
acting on it.
So you have to be a little bit concerned.
yeah, I could comment on where it came from. I mean, actually, where in when it started. I mean, we go back centuries, but that's not within the purview of this show. So
Why not?
we won't mention
This is
that
Conversations
right
with
now.
Ed.
But,
You
I mean,
can
the
talk
important
about
thing is that the public needs to, you know, the masses of the people are being dumbed down, you know, just dumbed down. And it's like Dr. Amos Wilson said, you got to try hard to be dumb these days, you know, with all the information we got on the internet and YouTube. You got to try hard to be dumb. You know, you just got to go and get it. You can't just take that television and think that's authority and don't even think, you know. And even Martin Luther King, Dr. King said the purpose of education is to enable you to think critically.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Expose
We
the
don't.
question.
We just suck
That's
it
the
in.
whole, the Aristotle, the aristocratic method is to question.
Yeah, but see, Aristotle, like Socrates, Homer, they all studied in Egypt.
They did?
Yeah.
Even Jesus.
Oh yeah, that was
All of them was
all
educated
in Egypt.
In Egypt.
In Egypt.
Yeah.
And what do they try to do? Downplay the black rolling.
Right. I read in the Jet magazine, this might have been in the 80s, a brother came from Egypt. He was born in Egypt citizen. He was coming to America, and they had him listed as a white man.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to go to court for them to change that on his passport.
Very common situation back
Right,
then.
right. So the Egyptians you see today aren't the original Egyptians.
Oh, no.
You
Nubians.
know, Saudi Arabia, the original Arabs were black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Egypt is a Greek name. The
Mhm.
African name for
African.
Egypt is Kemet, and it translates to the land of the black face. Ethiopia is a Greek name.
Mm-hmm.
The African name for Ethiopia is Cush. It's right there in the Bible in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've changed everything. There's an artist from Nigeria named File. He passed, but he has two sons that's continuing with his work.
Mhm.
One named Fime and Sean.
Mm.
But File was kind of like the James Brown of Africa.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was real popular, and he spoke against the injustice of the Nigerian government. And you look at Nigeria today and see what Nigeria is going through.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what he's, I'm not going to stay on that, but yeah, when you talk about Egypt, you know, it should be Kemet. But that's why the term Egyptologist was created. We think it was, you know, people who really study and, you know, and dig up the temples and whatnot, but they created Egyptologists in order to refute
right,
what our African scholars have found out.
right. That's
You know?
right.
Exactly.
And
right.
even this Mary Lefkowitz, you know,
Mhm.
who's not an Egyptian scholar, hired her to write a book called Not Out of Africa, just to refute what our scholars had did field work,
Right,
not
right.
just book research, but field work to lay these facts out. You know?
I'm not seeing. I'm learning something. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I didn't know about that. I mean, I knew what has been done historically as far as Egypt and the cutting off of the noses on the statues and all of that kind of nonsense. I didn't know about this book that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, that's quite a few years old now.
What's the name of it again?
Not Out of Africa.
Not Out of Africa.
Not Out of Africa. Yeah, Mary Lefkowitz.
And if you search YouTube, excuse me, you have videos on the lecture they did. They had a conference with Dr. Ben Yakinen,
Oh, yeah.
Dr. John Henry Clark,
Yeah.
and she's up there. Now these are
Yeah.
Solid citizens.
solid scholars.
There you go.
And trying to defeat what they were saying.
Well, they even had, you know, talking about conferences back in 1974, the, forget the name of it, Cairo conference, and they had all the top so-called Egyptologists there from all over the world, the scientists there and everything. And Sheikh Anta Diop, he's from Senegal. He used to run the Radiocarbon Institute,
Yeah.
Dakar. And he did a mummy dosage test, you know, just to test the melanin, and presented, you know, his findings. And not only that, but other findings, you know. And he was very well respected at that conference, you know, and he laid it out then, but then after that, well, we can't let the world know this is happening. We can't let the world know that civilization started in Kemet, which is in Africa. We can't let that happen. So then they started writing these books and getting these so-called pseudo-scholars.
Yeah, and you know, Africa was known as the center of education, and I mean, historically, the people sent their kids, the young lords and whatnot, to Africa for their education.
Right.
But
Istanbul, there was another center of learning, more on the West Coast. Timbuktu.
oh yeah, in Timbuktu,
Yeah.
Sankore, is that what's
They
the
destroyed
university?
it.
Yeah.
Timbuktu,
Sankore.
there you go. Okay. Well, I think that this was a needed conversation. I mean, we just pulled it out of the hat, said, "Come on up and get you guys to talk." I didn't know I was going to get two scholars up here.
No scholars.
Modest scholars at that, you know. So why don't let's see? How many producers are there?
Let's see, we got, well, first of all, it goes from Tuesday to Friday as far as live shows, 6 to 10. And so Tuesday night, you've got David Aponte and Quentin. I don't know Quentin's last
I know his
name.
last name.
Then you got myself and Brother Akil, 4. And then Thursday you got Rita Moore
Frank.
and Frank D. So what is that, 6?
Mhm.
And then Friday, Brother Leroy, who's been here a long time.
Yeah.
And Leroy Wilkins.
Mhm.
So we got about 7. So, but you know, a volunteer pool, like I said, you said, what would we do differently?
Mm.
That's one other thing, is that you'd have training. Once you have the training, you get a volunteer pool. And you'd have a pool of volunteers so that when somebody wants to produce, someone from the public sector wants to produce a show, they would call the producers, the technicians themselves, the volunteers themselves. And of course, you'd have your favorite. For instance, maybe you would like the way Akil and I put on your show. So you would call and say, I got a show going on, you know, this and that, whatever.
Yeah.
Can you come in and do my show? You know, so you'd have a pool of volunteers. What most public access stations do. They have a pool of volunteers, and the producers are the ones. But this is the unique thing, like Brother Kid was saying about this.
Hello. Hello, caller.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
How are you?
Okay, I'm great. God is good.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, I see 3 black kings
That's nice.
sitting there. I'm a black queen, and I know who my father is.
Thank you.
Now, I called in on different things that's important. Sir, I would beg you for all of us to get together where we paying all these taxes at Dogwood Dale.
At Dogwood Dell.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. I want everybody. I want the McGuire, the wheelchairs, whatever. I want the homeless. See, God, the Sermon on the Mount is not in a building.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about this heaven. I'm not going to be here too much longer.
Mm-hmm. So what would the
He's
meeting?
coming.
What would the
We
meeting be?
need this gospel
Well,
for
you know,
everybody at Dogwood Dale.
at Dogwood Dell. What
Yes,
is
sir.
What is at Dogwood Dell? I'm missing that. I don't know what's at Dogwood Dell.
Dogwood Dale is a place where we pay our taxes, where they have the ballets and the rest of the crap
Oh, I
that's
see.
going on. Oh, no, don't play with me. I'm too old.
Uh-huh.
See, don't play with me. We're in Virginia.
Okay.
I want God's heaven like the Sermon on the Mount. God is not in a building.
Mhm.
It's under the heavens.
Okay.
I want everybody. I want a gospel there for everybody. The homeless, the military, everybody.
Well, you might want to talk to someone in
Oh,
that
I
field.
talked to the ministers, and
Okay.
everybody is locked into your little boxes.
Mm.
But Jesus is passing by. I'm talking about him passing you by.
I got you.
Okay, I'm going to hang up now because, see, I'm giving it to you.
I appreciate
And I'm
it.
free. See, I'm free now.
Okay. Well, thank
Good
you for
night.
calling. All right. The gospel on them in Dogwood Dale. Now, you know, my great-grandfather used to preach sermons in his sleep
Yeah.
for 40 years. I told you about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had been around to hear some of it. Because if the story could last that long, it had to be some pretty powerful stuff, right? Now, this lady is right in what she's saying. You know, and again, you know, I get out and I talk a lot. And I always use the example of they took the prayer out of the schools.
Right.
Then they opened the malls up on Sunday, right? And then they started allowing all of the cursing and shooting and this, that, and the other, all in the movies. It all happened about the same time. And I think we're reaping what we sowed, because the young folks reacted, as you were saying earlier. You know, you look at these TVs, you look at these games now that they're playing and whatnot, and all of them are lessons in violence. There's nothing in any of these games that I see that helps interpersonal relationships. People don't know how to talk to each other anymore.
Right.
Okay?
I agree to that.
Now I get enjoyment out of coming down and, you know, me and you talk and whatnot, because you guys have a conversation. Well, how many peers do you have?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, think about that. How many peers do you have? And that's what you have in the homes now, because it's like you would raise your child a certain way and you raise your child a certain way. I raise my children a certain way. Then they have to go outside.
I was blessed to have a mother and father, 2 grandmothers, and 2 grandfathers.
So you had a real solid family
We had a
base.
solid
Same
family.
here, yeah.
You know, and I feel sorry for the young people today. You know, I hear a lot of women saying, you know, I don't need no man. You know, I can do it by myself. And in some instances, they have done good, you know, because the black man hasn't been there, generally speaking, hasn't really been there. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons. But it's evident that the black woman can no woman do it by themselves. Because look at the condition of our people. Look at the condition of our teenagers. You know? And I blame the man too. I'm not just blaming the woman. You know, but you can't do it by yourself. Man can't do it by herself. Can't no 2 men raise a boy to be a man. And can't no 2 women raise a little girl to be a woman. You know? I'm not going to get into that. I
know
leave
where
that
you're
right
going,
there.
brother.
You
I know
know,
where
I leave
you're
that right
going.
there.
But-
You know, go ahead, brother. We need strong men to protect our communities, to work together, you know, and a lot of people don't want to admit it, or they're afraid to say it, but the Nation of Islam has a strong program. You don't have to be a Muslim to agree with the program, you know. Our schools are dumbing down our children.
Without a doubt.
You know, they don't. What do they have to do? We have to have something to offer them. You know, they have nothing to do but play games on TV. You know, you don't see them out. When we were coming up, we made up games.
Absolutely.
Made up games
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
Outside.
Everybody-
Your parents had to call you in the house.
At dark, when the
You know?
street lights went out, get
Right,
in the house
right.
if you lived like that. But I think on one of the shows, I was describing how we were on a mountaintop in South Africa, and how much enjoyment we got, Charlene and I, watching the kids being kids, playing with sticks, hoops, rolling with the sticks, running the hoops down and laughing and giggling, you know. And Jim, cameraman, he said, you know, they don't miss anything. They're not missing anything. They actually have everything because they're enjoying their childhood.
Right. I had women complain about their husband. I'm talking about grown men sitting at home playing video games all day.
Grown men.
Grown men playing video games all day. Nothing wrong with video games, but all day, something's wrong.
Well, it's like Ed said too. I mean, you know, we're talking about the conversations. You know, we're not going to affect behavior. We're not going to change our behavior if we don't have the right conversations. You know, we're not having the right conversations. You know, we're having too many conversations about entertainment and fun. Nothing wrong with fun, you know, but we have to have those kind of conversations that's going to lift our people.
Right.
Whoa, hello, caller. Hello? Hello? Lost you. Hello? Lost him. Okay. Here, call back. Call back, caller. We want to hear what you have to say. But all of this, what we're talking about is a conversation that you find all over the place in different groups. Now, those groups need to get together and make something happen. Again, last week I was talking about the Alliance of Minority Group Leaders. That was something when Martin Luther King got assassinated. every block had a civil unit or whatnot going and working and doing something community-wise. But then you start duplicating, all right? And you're going after the same dollar. You're going after the same this. Get the groups together and have the leaders of each one of these groups set a forum for what it is that wants to be accomplished, and all of the groups work toward a common goal.
Right, exactly. And I understand what you're saying and talking about the dollar. You know, we don't start spending that dollar within our own communities, you know. And Claude Anderson always says, a dollar should circulate. He's not the only one that said it, but at least 12 times before it goes out. You know, but instead we're gonna go way over another side of town
And
you know,
caught
looking
up in
for
the
someone
images.
else.
You know. Hello, caller.
Hey, Ed. Is this Ed?
Yeah.
Hey, it's good to see you on TV again. But tonight I just wanted to talk briefly about the two individuals you have sitting next to you, Akil and Andwele.
Yeah.
They have themselves probably logged more time at that station than anyone that I know. There's other people, of course, the producers on the other nights as well, but I think as far as in the community, helping keep and make that station strong, fighting all the things that need to be fought to keep that station alive. If it wasn't for those two individuals sitting right there, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you, and you wouldn't be having that show tonight.
Right.
They are never seen. And I think kind of camera shy, like a lot of people are, but as far as being able to do the things that needed to be done in spite of all the adversary that has come against that station, it's just, I just can't say enough, and I hope the studio audience will recognize these two people. And if they do happen to see them, thank them for all the hard work they've done. City of Richmond has had one of the longest histories in public access about being free, where you're unedited, you can come and say what you want to say. And if it wasn't for those two guys right now, none of us would be enjoying this freedom that the Telecommunication Act gives us and the right to have in every community.
Outstanding. I thank you so much for that. And this
Not
is
a problem. And just to let you know, many more shows I hope you got under your belt. And I think if we all continue to work together as a main force, we'll be able to see another generation coming into that station in our old age, hopefully.
That's nice.
And take it over and, of course, and run it as well as it's being run now.
Real nice. I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
You need to come down and come on the show yourself.
I am, just say I'm probably more camera shy than both of them put together.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. But
Thanks a lot for the call, Ed.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Bye.
See, real nice.
Well, I recognize the voice, Brother Akil does too, and I just want to give kudos to Steve.
Right.
Steve, and he's a wealth of knowledge as far as public access, laws and all that, how the city works. He's been down fighting for us. He's been down to the County Board of Supervisors and the RICO and
By
testified
himself
by himself.
Yeah.
Well,
And he's
Steve,
written
if that's
letters
the case,
and he sent emails and he's just so very helpful.
you don't have to
Thank
go
you.
by yourself. I'm a good talker. You let me know when you're going, and we'll gang up on them. Okay? Thanks for that call. That's good. That's good. See, so somebody does pay attention to what's happening.
Yeah.
But you got, and see, this is why I wanted the people to know who's in back and what effort goes into it. Because a lot of folks just sit home and say, oh, that's the crazy station. What kind of crazy people they have on this tonight?
Well, like I said, it wasn't my intentions on doing this. I came down for a reason, but I've grown and I've learned a lot. And I'm really, I think I'm blessed and honored to work with somebody like Andwele.
That you can learn
The feeling is mutual. I mean, a lot of times, like you said, sometimes we put on the hair out, and I just come so I can talk to Brother Akil.
Yeah, but you guys balance.
I mean, when you got shows like your show, who's got, imparting information that's useful,
That's nice.
that's a reward.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reward, is to know that we're part of information that can be used by the public.
Right.
But so much more can be done, and we're going to work toward that.
Right.
Hopefully, see what
Right.
we can do.
Well, let's collaborate. You know, I mean, my time is up. I think next Wednesday. This 6-week run went by real fast, but
The next week
we'll
or-
be done. Yeah, but I mean, I'll be back. But in the meantime, there's other stuff that we can be doing that can be being aired on here, like I did the thing with the VA hospital.
Right.
I'm talking to
Right.
the sheriff about coming in and doing something about the new jail
Right.
with him, okay? And I'm also gonna do something from the karate school, because self-defense is such a big issue now. We're getting so many phone calls all of a sudden from women who want to be able to take self-defense. And
That's good.
Oh, it's very good, and it's very timely, because now's when they need to know it, and it's so simple. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do, and you guys, you've been watching my kids. I call them my kids, but just as they're moving through the motions and whatnot. But they think of the adults, man, when they learn just those little raise your hands up or those kind of things. But I want to see more emphasis put on teaching the young people and giving them the option. Just like you said, you came in, all right, and Dia, our son Dia, when he was a youngster, came in, and he's in television now. Tyreek, the older one, started out. Now he's with ABC, I think ABC or either NBC News in DC.
That's good.
Okay, but the foundation is built, and it's built on a foundation of education and knowledge. Now there's another issue, school. I was in my hometown this past weekend. 38% of the senior class graduated. 38%. This was one of the top high schools in the United States. In fact, in the 1960s, Life magazine did a whole series on the high school. Johnny Mackey and all of the football players that came out of there, and the academics and so and so. But as one of you said earlier, they're dumbing down the kids, because all they're doing is they teach them how to take a test.
Yeah.
They're not teaching them anything. They're teaching them how to take a test.
Right. As long as they can go work for somebody else. Not smart enough to create a job for yourself.
And my dad used to say, you can't make any money working for somebody else, because they never want to pay you more than they're making.
Right.
Okay? Right. Now that was the Sanford, from Sanford and Son.
Oh, okay.
Okay? That's a true story. Okay?
Tell the people, man.
Oh, it's patterned after my dad, yeah. But I mean, that old bummy looking guy was making over $100,000 a year in the 60s and 70s. Okay? We grew up real nice, but nobody knew. Hey, he collects junk. Yeah.
I'd like to ask the people, we have a Facebook page for the studio. It's called PAPA, capital PAPA dash Public Access Producers Association / Richmond, Virginia. And like our page, and like I said again, come down, get involved with the station. Produce your own shows. It can lead you to maybe a great career. You never know.
Mm-hmm. And the training program.
Yes, you train on the job.
Okay,
You
now
don't have a formal training.
you don't have a
program,
formal training.
We
but
should have one.
Anybody wants to be a volunteer, become a volunteer. I'm not going to speak for. I guess I can't speak for every night. There's volunteers here, but Brother Akil and I on Wednesday night, if you want to come down and get trained, you're welcome.
That's right.
Just
Do
give
you
us
hear
a
that?
call.
And there's so many of you youngsters that want to do videos, I want to make music videos. Well, do you have a camera?
Right.
Of course, all of this still would have to go
Through.
before,
and be approved.
the station manager.
It's got to be approved, But Mike is pretty progressive, and I think, like you
Martin,
say,
yeah.
Martin, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, Martin is very helpful. He's been very helpful since he's been here, but
How
like
much
any
can he do?
organization, it's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And then you hit that brick stone wall. And sometimes, as much as we don't like to, because I was taught not to break the chain of command, I know you were too,
Yeah.
but it's a little bit different, and sometimes you have to, with no disrespect to the first level. But what has to be done in order to progress, you just have to do it, and we need that's where we're going to need support.
Right, right, and support from the community. We take donations. You know, if you have chairs,
That's what I was going to ask.
if you have
yeah.
chairs, tables, tablecloths, backdrops, anything will help us. You know, if we want to make the station look better, you know, we take all donations.
Why don't we go down to BCU's mass media department, mass communications, and see what they can do?
That's a good idea.
You know?
Yeah, I'm willing to go with you.
All right, then let's
Yeah.
set that up. We can
We
do
can
that.
do that, but again, we still would
Got to go
probably
through
have
the chain of
go
command.
through
to
the
let
chain of
Martin,
command.
out of respect, to let them know what we're
let's,
doing.
how about we start it out by having a meeting with Martin, okay? And we can go on from there.
Yeah, we can do that.
And I think that he would be attuned to that. Martin, if you're watching, your team sitting here, willing to get out there on the limb and help you make this place what it can be. These guys are doing a great job working with what they have, but they can do a much better job if they have just a little bit more. Make sense?
Yes.
All right.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Go ahead, huh? She doesn't know how to do it. That's what it is, yeah. Yeah, see, we have, just because our producers are up here, we have some help behind the screen tonight from a television pro who they call Mona from Tropical Beat. I call her Mrs. Coleman. She's great. Yeah, that was a good trip to New York this weekend. But I like this, and it gets you guys a chance to kind of air some of the stuff that
Well, I think it gives the public also. Yeah, could you switch that for me? It it gives the public some insight into how.
Most people have no idea.
They have no
They
idea.
just turn the channel
When we say
on.
most people, I think probably I would venture to say 85-90% of the people in this area know nothing about the station, that they could actually come down, and you can actually come down and produce a show free of charge virtually. You bring your blank DVD, you know, and air your grievances or information, impart information or whatever your interests are.
It's a great opportunity.
Come on
Yep,
down.
That's it. That's it.
So call station manager at Martin Stith at 804-915-5201.
915.
915-5201.
Okay.
Give him a call and let him know you want to produce a show.
Anybody that has a question or a suggestion, we have about 10 more minutes. If you want to call in and get a chance to ask these gentlemen while they're here, you can do that. They're getting a little restless here because they know, you know how you get real comfortable and a little what would the word be? Territorial. Nobody back there messing with my camera. But she won't mess it up.
Well, let me
trust
clear one thing up here. A lot of times it's the language we use as far as the technical language for station and what we do. We are volunteer technicians. You know, what we do behind the scenes, we're studio technicians. A lot of people think we're producers. We are producers in the sense that I have a TV show that I produce, and Brother Akil has one. So in that light, we are producers. But when you come in and when other people come in, you see them on the air, we're behind the scenes, we're volunteer technicians.
Now, what is your show
we're not
about?
producing. My show is an Afrocentric show called Harambe, means let's all pull together. So anything having to do with uplifting our people and imparting information, education,
When is that
whatever.
on?
It comes on every Friday at 7 p.m.
Fridays
for
at 7 p.m.
30 minutes, actually 29 minutes. And being that the clock is a little bit off, the clock here at the station at the time that the show actually comes on is probably more like 6:58, and your clock might show 7, so 6:58 to
That's why I'm losing 2 minutes.
you're
Okay,
losing
I'm
because
glad
the
you
clock
told me that. Right.
is not synced
Okay.
properly, so you're losing 2 minutes up front.
And Akil, what's your show about?
Well, I have two.
Oh, show off.
One is the minister, like I said earlier. Mr. Farrakhan comes on every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 8:30. And I also have a show called ARM 1555 Productions. That's my own show. I get once a year. I have 6 shows that I produce. You know, I like to bring positive people in on my show. You know, you're one of them.
Yeah,
right?
I appreciate that.
Right. A lot of people want to know what my ARM 1555 stand for. ARM is my initials. 1555 is the year the first slaves landed in this country on a ship named Jesus, navigated by a man named Augustus Hawkins. And you can look it up. 1555, not 16, something like they be telling you.
Now, something else that the public might not know, that good ship Jesus,
Yes.
when the slaves were singing, "Carry Me Back
Right.
to the good ship Jesus," they
Right.
were talking about going home.
That's right, bro.
There you
Okay,
go.
that's
There you
right,
go.
Yeah.
That's
There you
right.
go.
See, down south, and again, my family's from South Carolina, you know, every 5 miles there's a church. Okay, so back in the slavery days, they used the drum to call the different tribal people out to the woods to the meetings. Well, once the slave masters found out that the drum had that power, they forbid drums.
Right.
The folks at that time understood the concept of the gathering place, the church. So they said, well, let's start our own churches. Nobody could object to them going to church. They didn't use the drum, but they still had their meeting places and whatnot. And, you know, we go to Africa quite a bit, and one of the comments that we hear over and all over different parts of Africa, why did they think that they came and brought us God? They didn't think we knew about God before they came. Where were they before they came here? You know,
Yeah.
and I hear this and I laugh. And education, it's like we were talking about education before. We were in Ghana at the University of Ghana at Accra. Beautiful. I mean, a beautiful academic circumstance on the top of a mountain, and I mean, with tradition they call ponding, and you can throw in the pond and all of this kind of stuff. Kwame Ture, all of these folks.
Kwame Ture,
Oh,
yeah. I met him, you know, in Hawaii.
Was her best friend.
I did a lecture. He did a lecture at the University of Hawaii, and I videotaped him there.
He
It
wanted.
was just a pleasure to meet him.
That was Charlene's best friend.
I see.
And
Yeah.
when Charlene and I met, and I gave her his phone number, his
Okay.
first question to her was, "And how do you know him?"
Yeah.
Because that'll be another show. We'll sit down and we'll talk about having been part of this civil rights movement and whatnot. I think we're on the countdown, guys. Now, here are the 2 guys that didn't want to talk. You sat up here and you brought some real strong knowledge, okay? And you brought some information that I didn't know. And I'm sure the public get a chance to meet you and hear about some of the stuff that you have. Do you have anything coming up that you want to let folks know about?
Well, I belong to an organization called the African Ancestral Chamber, and in October, annually, we have what's called Ancestor Day and Fites, which means celebration. So it's going to be around October 4th or 5th. 4th and 5th is actually a 2-day celebration. So we get a chance to highlight, to honor our ancestors, and we've been instrumental with this stadium fiasco that the mayor wants to put
Shaka
over our
Bottom.
sacred land,
Down in Shaka
the
Bottom.
Shako Bottom. And I say I haven't really been, you know, I don't want to take credit for being there all the time, because there's some warriors out there that's there all the time, and I just want to let them know I appreciate them. But yeah, the African Ancestral Chamber, and we'll try to let you know more about that.
Please.
It's coming up in October every year.
And
Every
it's,
year.
it's like a celebration.
Celebration, we have speakers and
And where would that be
vendors.
held?
Different places, you know. First year was held at the Williamsburg Road Flea Market, so I'm not sure where it's going to be held this year, but we'll get that information out.
She's calling you.
Yeah, we'll get that information. But thank you, Ed.
No, it's not my pleasure. I thank you guys for coming up. Thank you folks for watching. We are really getting ready to run overtime. So those of you who have been tuned in, been watching for the last 5 weeks, we appreciate it very, very much. Like for you to tune in next week to be the last show. Have your phone calls ready, questions ready, because we can talk about what's coming. And big ups to these two folks, okay? We okay?